Hello everybody, it's TannerFishies here, back again with a new Ninjago video here on the channel. In today's video we are going to be discussing the two new elements introduced throughout Ninjago 2021, and I will be explaining my thoughts on them and just kind of giving a general overview of what exactly these elements are and what the elemental powers are capable of. All of this information is confirmed by the Book of Elemental Powers, which is a brand new Ninjago book that I've covered extensively on the channel since it's come out. I've done a full flip through of this book, so if you wanted to check it out for yourself, feel free to do so. It's a very informative book that actually features a lot of information about every elemental power that we've seen throughout the Ninjago series so far, and it also confirms that two new elements introduced in 2021's Ninjago story are in fact elemental powers. Those, of course, being Storm and Wave. Believe it or not, these two powers are confirmed to be, well, elemental powers, which adds two more powers to the overall list of elemental powers. I'm already tired of saying the word powers, but let's continue on here. Both of the TV show installments for Ninjago in 2021 featured an introduction of a previous power wielded by Wajira, the ancient storm spirit. Storm was introduced during the Island saga of the Ninjago TV series, while Wave was introduced during Seabound. Each of these powers are derived from a specific amulet that Wajira originally had held. The Storm amulet obviously gives birth to the Storm power, while the Wave amulet naturally creates the Wave element. And as previously mentioned, the Storm amulet was introduced in the Island, and the Wave amulet was introduced during Seabound. You guys get it, there's pretty much a big crossover going on here between the Island and Seabound. And also, speaking of crossovers, like I said, both of these powers come from the ancient storm spirit known as Wajira, who made her grand appearance during Seabound after being teased towards the end of the Island. So why don't we start off by taking a look at the power of Storm, introduced in the Island, which was the first chapter of Ninjago for the year of 2021. Now, Storm as an element is very similar to that of Lightning, an already existing elemental power. The difference between Storm and Lightning, though, is basically the color. Lightning is blue, while Storm is primarily purple. The Storm amulet was originally used by Wajira during her early conquests during Ninjago's earlier days, until it was pried off of Wajira's head by Niad and was promptly given to the Keepers. They held the Storm amulet for several years, or at least they thought they did. There was some trickery going on revolving what exactly the real amulet was, and all that was kind of confusing during Seabound, but regardless, the original Keepers held the Storm amulet after being allies of the first Spinjitzu Master. The power of Storm itself can essentially create and manipulate storms, or even control the properties of them. According to series creator Tommy Andreasen, the Storm element feels as though you are experiencing the characteristics of being trapped inside of a storm itself. We could see a lot of that going on during the Island when the ninja actually tried to make it towards the Island of the Keepers. They were surrounded by several purple storms. All of that is primarily the power of the Storm amulet, and in turn, the Storm element itself. After Wajira was awakened towards the ending of Seabound, she used the power of Storm to combat Nia after she unlocked her new NRG powers, if you want to call it that, and ultimately she was defeated once Nia destroyed the Wave amulet, overwhelming Wajira with the power of Storm and completely obliterating her practically from the inside out. It's currently unknown whether or not the Storm element will be making a reappearance later on in Ninjago's future, though I would not doubt it, and I'll explain why here in a little bit. But first, let's talk about the Wave element, which was introduced during Seabound after being teased towards the end of the Island, I guess you could say. The Wave element admittedly has less known about it than that of Storm, but the origins of the Wave element are very similar to that of Storm. The Wave amulet alongside the other amulet was originally controlled by Wajira during her early conquest. All of that is very similar. The Wave element essentially allows its user to control the waves, or at least control some aspect of the sea. Like I said, we do not have a lot of explicit details regarding Wave like we do with Storm. In context though, the Wave element is very similar to that of water, and Wajira was ultimately defeated by a water user during the finale of Ninjago Seabound. And like I said, that's basically all the information that we have right now regarding Wave as an element. I feel like these two elements are very intriguing to say the least. While they seem to have similar capabilities of previously established elemental powers, they are still quite unique in the sense that they were controlled by a bad guy and were originally not part of the first Spinjitzu Master's lineup, alongside elements like water and even wind. And it is quite bit confusing and concerning to me that these two elemental powers are very similar to that of already established powers, but I believe that there is an explanation for that, and I believe the elemental power of wind is the answer. This is where my speculation kind of takes over, so do keep that in mind. This information was not confirmed by the Book of Elemental Powers, but it does make a fair bit of sense if you simply break it down. I believe that both storm and wave connect to the elemental power of wind, because when you think about it, both storm and wave are pretty much combinations of wind and a previously existing power. With storm as an element, you could combine lightning with wind, and that would get you storm. The elemental properties of both lightning and wind as certain power sets, if you combine them together, you can see where the storm element would come into play. So part of me wonders if those origins will be touched on in Ninjago's future, or if this is just complete nonsense that will lead nowhere. In terms of wave, you could combine water with wind and create wave as an elemental power, which makes sense considering how waves are often caused by wind. So when you combine the elemental properties of both water and wind, you will get wave. I hope that makes sense. I feel like while storm and wave do indeed have properties that tie it into previous elemental powers, like I said, I think there's a reason for that. I have a feeling these powers will be explained extensively later on in Ninjago's lore, and if they are, then that's fantastic. Otherwise, 2021 introduced two new elemental powers. Those, of course, being once again storm and wave. And because of everything that I just previously listed, I firmly believe that the missing link to these elemental powers is indeed the power of wind. When you break it down even further, you can see that in the first Spinjitzu Master's arsenal of elemental powers, wind, water, storm, wave, all of that is nowhere to be found. All of those elements are nowhere to be found, but the first Spinjitzu Master did indeed hold a lot of power, just not these powers. Those powers specifically belonged to Wajira. It's not exactly clear where lightning fits into all of this, as lightning was indeed part of the original first Spinjitzu Master's power set, but who really knows for sure? This is all just speculation on my end. What we know for sure right now is that the elemental powers of water and wind did not belong to the first Spinjitzu Master, and the elemental powers of storm and wave were represented in the form of amulets, and after they were pried off of Wajira's person by Niad, the original Master of Water, the storm amulet was given to that of the Keepers, while the wave amulet was given to that of the Merlopians. Various cracks in the pipeline later on caused Wajira to reawaken and reintroduce these elements to the Ninjago world once again. How exactly these elements existed all this time, we do not know, and right now we do not have any explicit information regarding what these powers are capable of. All I know is that these are officially listed as elemental powers in the Book of Elemental Powers, and these powers have also been touched on by series creators and certain staff that actually work on the show itself. In terms of which of these elements I prefer as a power, I have to say I'm a little bit more intrigued over the concepts of storm as opposed to simply wave. So personally, I prefer storm, but let me know down below in the comments what you think about these two elements, and let me know which of these powers you think is the superior one. And do you think we will get more information regarding these powers in the future? Leave all your thoughts down below in the comments, you guys. That'll pretty much wrap it up from my thoughts here today. Kind of a shorter video right here, but like I said, we do not have a lot of information regarding these certain elements. Those, of course, being storm and wind. Leave all your thoughts down below in the comments. That'll pretty much wrap it up from my thoughts here today. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and check out the links down below in the description for other forms of social media. As always, big shout out goes out to my Patreon supporters, including once again the marvelous Jan. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video once again. My name is TannerFishies, and with that, I bid you farewell.